and thanks for staying with us for this new edition of news with information updates from Cameroon, Africa and around the world. We begin in Cameroon. November 6, 1982 to November 6, 2020. 38 straight years, day after day, that Paul Biya assumes the leadership of Cameroon as the head of state, taking over from the pioneer president Amadou Ahidjo. 38 years of reign, during which his scoreboard, as supporters of the New Deal regime say, is showing outstanding achievements. In 1984, he transformed the United Republic of Cameroon and transformed the ruling CPDM party from the ashes of the CNU party on the 24th of March 1985 in Bamenda. He amended the constitution in 1996 for a broad-based participatory rule. The amendment brought about the concept of decentralization in Cameroon, the creation of the Senate, and putting in place of regional councils. All the same, these 38 years have not been all a bed of roses. The New Deal's early challenge was the attempted coup d'etat of 1984. Since then, economic crisis set in, youth unemployment, security challenges, especially in the far north-east region, and the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. A crisis that has been shaking the regime right to its roots. Nevertheless, Paul Biya is still piloting the affairs of the country, with his current mandate expected to round up in 2025. A total of 17 companies in Cameroon are formally prohibited from carrying out activities across the national territory. The companies involved are network marketing companies who enrich themselves by doing illicit fundraising on crypto assets. Cameroon Minister of Finance Louis-Paul Motaze ordered the closure of the illegal fundraising operations by unauthorized companies through a press release. Such businesses are known to function by getting people to entrust huge sums of money to them with the pretext of purchasing online assets or other services in order to make great benefit in a short period of time. While warning Cameroonians to be careful of such fraudsters, Louis-Paul Motaze also orders these companies to reimburse the savers funds under penalty or legal action. He, however, also warns of the risk of not recovering the money. The prohibited companies are Académie des Investisseurs Africains, Global Investment Trading, Global Cryptocurrencies Trading, GTX Invest Global Trusted Exchange, Soga Sal, Petron Pay Cameroon, Make It Invest, Unique Finance, Fortune Investment and Wealth, Crifat, High Life International Cameroon, Sahirui, Regel Cameroon, Cameroon Invest, Mungano Investment, Obasi Communication, and Divines Auto Electronic and Africa Life. Prior to MINFI's decision, the Central African Financial Market Surveillance Commission had as well published on October 21 a press release warning Cameroonians against people who propose to invest in financial products without having the necessary authorization. In health news, the government of Cameroon continues to caution citizens to keep on respecting coronavirus measures as infection rates of the pandemic continue to grow. This comes as the Ministry of Public Health reports 600 new cases of COVID-19 in 2 weeks in the country. A government communique signed by the Minister of Communication, spokesperson of the government, René Emmanuel Sadi, on November 2nd, insists that all the measures taken by the head of state to stop the propagation of the virus and protect the people are still in place, and all teams designed to work on COVID-19 detection and treatment nationwide are still operational. Cameroonians are therefore called upon to carry on with the wearing of face masks in public places, respect of social distancing, as well as the regular washing of hands. Recall that coronavirus is neither defeated nor eradicated in Cameroon nor in the world, so the strict respect of the measures in place are still necessary to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The 2020-2021 academic year began with its own peculiarities, amongst which is the two-shift system as a means to control the spread of COVID-19 pandemic, a system which educational stakeholders are still struggling to adapt to. On the part of teachers, it is an uphill task.
Formerly, we used to have classes run from 7:30 or sometimes 7 o'clock right up to 4 o'clock. But with this system, you have classes running yet from the same time, but with two different schools. And when I say two different schools, it's like you have one school from 7 o'clock to midday, and then another school from that time right up to 5 o'clock. So those are two different schools. And the number of teachers has not multiplied overnight. Therefore, you have about the same number of teachers, or a little bit more in number, who are doing double the job they used to do.
Students on their part equally have their own worry to deal with.
For the students, let me say it is so difficult. It has reduced the number of hours of learning that will keep children constantly on their toes.
Given the delicate nature of their task, there has to be a way of circumventing the difficulty.
Parents should go in for textbooks for their children so that we can collectively work, give them work to do at home and through other media, without which is going to weigh down too much on the children because the number of hours of learning has been drastically reduced.
Being an issue concerning the entire educational family, the input of everyone is necessary. This November 5, 2020 will remain engraved in the minds of Cameroonians, and notably those of Kumba Meme Division, as the day when the lifeless bodies of the 7 victims of the October 24 Kumba massacre were laid to rest. Assembled at the amusement park of the Kumba city, all dressed in black and in mourning, the bereaved families, sympathizers and city dwellers came out to wish a final farewell to the young Cameroonian souls who fell in the education field turned into a battlefield in Cameroon.
We have gathered here today in our numbers to bid the final farewell to our children, our cherished and innocent children who died as a result of the massacre that took place at Watu. Precisely. We had clergymen who have done their role that they are supposed to play. I remember one word that they resounded in the course of their preachings, that it is better to be part of a funeral than to be part of a feast. And we know and we hope that the messages that we have received from the clergymen is going to touch the various persons who deserve them. Those who are perpetrators of the act, we hope that they are going to be touched by the messages that we have had, and they have an opportunity to ask for forgiveness and then to come back to our community.
Also present at the funeral site was Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngute, representing the head of state. He arrived from Yaoundé on Wednesday, November 4, alongside a delegation to preside over the occasion. After the funeral service, the corpses were handed to the victims' families for burial. It was a heartbreaking moment for inconsolable mothers, fathers, sisters and brothers, as well as the whole community, to have to say goodbye too soon. Though the ceremony took place in relative calm and security, an incident was recorded at the site where one of the vehicles carrying the corpses caught fire, causing panic. However, no serious effects were noticed, though superstitious observers consider it to be a warning sign of eventualities.
we service cannot know the thing where they pass the reason for the price save now. On Monday for Insta confused on marketplace.
The price of eggs in Cameroon local markets has experienced an unexplained increase for weeks now. Vendors complain that they have been informed by poultry farmers about the increase, which has no justification. A situation which just few weeks back was not the case. As this vendor explains, a tray of eggs is now sold between 2,300 to 2,500 francs. A complicated situation for households and retailers like this storekeeper, who says they are now forced to sell an egg for 100 francs instead of 75 or 50 francs as before. The effect of the increase in price is also noticeable in the sector of cafeteria businesses, as this dealer explains that they no longer have customers as they are forced to increase the price of an egg at their own level so as to break even. Douala City Municipal Executive recently met at an ordinary council session to evaluate the level of realization of the 2020 council budget for the third semester as of the 30th of September 2020. The outcome of the meeting was that the council is on a good footing, as the city mayor says.
The rate of execution of the budget was about 50%. We hope to come at a level of 80-90%. That means that we may have between 40 and 45 billions income.
But then, the city of Douala, in the third millennium, being the economic capital of the country and an important economic hub in the sub-region, is yet to assume its geostrategic position. Circulation within the city is a nightmare, especially in some areas due to poor road network. The fluvial nature of the city has made a bad case of the drainage system a worse one. Haphazard and anarchical construction is one of the ugly characteristics that is easily identified within the city. Issues which City Council Mayor Mbassadine understands as priority areas to be considered as they round up the last quarter of the year. Projects that are only attainable if the financial strength of the council permits.
We are working very hard to improve our incomes, and we are looking for new incomes sources. That's what we are trying to do. At the same time, we are trying to perform to tighten the expenses so that we can move forward in a good manner in a balance of a budget.
Besides, the city council is looking forward to reconnect the mainland city with Manuka so as to increase revenue sources from this island subdivision. In Ethiopia, the first round of military operations against the forces of the opposition-led Tigray region has been carried out in the form of airstrikes, as announced by Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Friday evening. He said the airstrikes have been conducted in the well-armed northern region of Tigray, coming days after he announced a military operation there. The strikes hit targets in and around the regional capital Mekelle and destroyed heavy weapons, including rocket launchers, in order to render any retaliatory attack impossible, Mr. Abiy said in his statement broadcast on TV. The Ethiopian government on Wednesday announced a military retaliation against the region after he accused the regional troops loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front of attacking a military command post hosting federal troops. Observers say this marks a significant escalation in the interregional conflict and could result in a civil war in one of Africa's most powerful and populous countries. Before now, the Tigray People's Liberation Front used to be a dominant force in Ethiopia's ruling coalition, but its power has been sidelined since Mr. Abiy became Prime Minister in 2018. The African Union, based in Ethiopia, has not issued any statement yet concerning the development in the conflict, although 8 groups warn of a humanitarian disaster if fighting continues. France is on the verge of cutting back its military presence in the deadly Sahel region, less than a year after sending hundreds of extra troops to the region. This is to make room for reinforcements from other stronger European countries, French army resources said. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian and Defense Minister Florence Parly had visited Mali in successive turns last week to help the government assess the French presence in the Sahel, where thousands of troops have been stationed as part of Operation Barkhane to fight terrorism. Before the Barkhane Force, French troops first deployed to Mali in 2013 after a jihadist insurgency broke out in the country a year earlier. Despite their presence, jihadist violence has still grown and spread to other sub-Saharan countries like neighboring Burkina Faso and Niger. The Al-Qaeda affiliated group to support Islam and Muslims and the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara are two of the deadliest groups causing terror in the region. The conflict has killed thousands of soldiers and civilians and caused many more to flee their homes. France has said it would like to withdraw several hundred troops from its current 5,100, taking it back to the levels deployed before a surge in attacks in January. A new European task force called Takuba is to be deployed to support France in its fight against violence in the vast Sahel region. About 150 people have either died or gone missing following devastating mudslides caused by powerful storm Eta in the Central American country of Guatemala. It buried an entire village, President Alejandro Giammattei said. He added that around half of the deaths were in a single town where a hillside collapse buried some 20 houses under thick mud. Rainfall worth that of a whole month had fallen in less than half a day, the Guatemalan president said during an impromptu press conference on Thursday. Many of the dead were buried in their homes in the remote Quilla village, where about 150 houses had been swallowed by mudslides, Guatemalan army spokesman Ruben Teles said. Rescue operations across have been slowed by destroyed roads and bridges, forcing authorities to bring in the military. An army unit arrived in the northern village of Quilla, crossing the mountainous area on foot to reach the village and begin the rescue efforts. The ongoing heavy rain has left rescue workers unable to reach out to some of the worst affected areas, including the town of San Cristobal Varapes, which is home to half of the reported casualties. Eta is one of the fiercest storms to hit Central America in years, reports say. It is expected to regain strength this weekend as it moves northeast towards Cuba and Florida. As of Friday evening, the United States has set a third straight daily record for new COVID-19 infections, recording more than 127,000 cases, Johns Hopkins University reported on Friday. Meanwhile, the death toll over the past 24 hours was 1,149. The number of cases had begun climbing to over 103,000 by Wednesday evening, just few hours after American presidential elections, with 1,116 deaths, according to the COVID tracking project. The outbreak has been on the rise for weeks across the country, with the Midwest worst hit. This rate of infection and death has not been seen in the U.S. since early September. Presently, the U.S. is the worst hit country in the world in terms of deaths and total cases of COVID-19, with more than 236,000 coronavirus-related deaths and 9.7 million known infections. Hospitals are increasingly overwhelmed as COVID-19 cases make up 10% or more of all hospitalized patients in 18 states. Global figures of the pandemic show that there are over 47 million cases worldwide, with over 1.2 million deaths. That brings us to the end of this weekend edition of the news. Thanks for being here. Keep watching DBS TV and have a great weekend.